Yeah, that girl was really rude. I would have had some words for her if I had been on there, but to come at you like that wasn't right.
Yeah, I was kind of taken aback, and then they kind of were transitioning to the next topic. So even when I wrote what I wrote, I had already written it and was like contemplating whether to hit send or like whether I said what I wanted to say,
Mm-hmm.
like in the moment. But it was odd. Like I was telling,
Yeah.
I'm like a fan of the show, and then I like, I definitely, give my thoughts to the show on a semi-regular basis. So it was,
Mm.
you know,
So you saying that some of them might know you,
yeah,
or know your name, know the name.
No, of you.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, well, I thought that Selena, the first girl, Selena, like handled it pretty well. Like at first, she was like she said she said, oh, she disagreed with you, and that's totally valid. But then the other girl, Tammy, like I feel like she definitely perpetrated some black on black crime right there.
Well, I think that like she got real like defensive about it for no good reason.
Okay. Yes, that was my joke. Yeah, like that was my joke. But yeah.
Something a little bit odd that happened, and I'm no psychologist or psychiatrist. I don't have any bona fides, and I'm sure other folks, not necessarily here, but in general, do and think they might know a bit better. But
I almost majored in psychology.
okay, I kind of recognize when something happens in a group and one person says something and the next person kind of piles on, and it kind of like, I'm not going to say that it's quote unquote group think. I'm not going to say that, but there does seem to be an element of one person said something and then people kind of like started piling on.
Yeah.
It seemed to be above what the objective, it seemed to go beyond an objective thing. So I thought that was a little bit odd. So I think, the first person said something, it was kind of cool, it was kind of being diplomatic.
Yeah.
He kind of threw in I disagree, which is fine, right? To disagree.
Totally.
Yeah, that's normal adult discourse.
And I was actually, I actually was about to say that I agree with her disagreement. At least so, but then that other girl just totally went below the belt.
The reason why I don't disagree with her disagreement is because I'm talking in general. I'm not talking about some group of like woke podcasters or like
that. Like you weren't saying them specifically, right?
Saying them, so I have to disagree. I think this is what we do in life, and some might say particularly because of social media, but it's just what we do in life. We take the minuscule and we blow it up out of proportion. So like when one rapper does something, it could be an anomaly. When two rappers do something, all of a sudden it's a rule. And that's not the way the world works. Two things like don't make a rule. And so I think this sensationalized, all of a sudden rappers are jumping out of the woodwork supporting Trump is bullshit.
There's actually more that have endorsed Biden, to my knowledge.
It's not all of them. It's not all of them. It's just a few.
Well, exactly. So that's exactly my point, and exactly what you said, Emily. If anything, lots of rappers are endorsing Biden, so why don't we take a more balanced approach and say, out of all these rappers endorsing Biden, kind of strange that a few of them are popping up for Trump. That would have been the misused phrase, fair and balanced, right?
Like I can name more off the top of my head that have endorsed Biden.
Yeah.
And like have come out for Trump.
Definitely. I only named two, but I could have named more as well. But I wasn't trying to like show off or rap. I was just trying to make a.
Well, there's more than that. Like look, like Snoop endorsed Biden, Cardi B.
Like I said,
neither of those are surprising. But then also, admittedly, I'm not surprised that Lil Wayne came out for Trump. So.
Okay. So yeah, that's what we were talking about before. because Emily, you said that you thought that Wayne was trolling, but this Wayne has said some weird things over the past few years. One of them being,
Well, yes, he has.
but
Like the Black Lives Matter doesn't apply to him.
yeah, well,
Right.
even worse than that, saying that he hasn't seen racism in his life, right? Like racism, like that racism doesn't apply to him, which is even worse, right? Because it's like, what planet are you living on? I mean, I know in his lyrics he says he's a Martian, but um, I mean, come on, we've all seen racism. Like that's absolutely ridiculous. And like he said an interesting thing. He's famous, and I think like with someone who was like maybe I mean I just hate to I hate to be so blunt, but with someone who was um let's just say better at articulating these things, he could have just said, "Look, I live a privileged life. I'm not seeing what the average person is seeing, but even me, I mean, the guy got a gun charge in New York, and basically like swore off New York for a long time because the hip hop cops were like stalking him and all the rappers. Like, I mean, come on, like this is he's
Yeah,
he's seen his fair share, and like he's a black man living, who came up in some of the roughest parts of Louisiana. Like, you got to be kidding me. Now I will say it's
I think he knows what he's doing, though. I mean, I like.
he knows.
Oh
You think he just doesn't want to uh, cast off any of his like people who buy his records? Is that
no, I don't think it's that. Like the reason why I say that, and I mean, I can't say for sure because like I don't know the dude, but and like I could care less like if he wants to vote for a stapler for president because I know who I voted for, but like I think that like but the reason I say I think that all of that, like not only this most recent like stunt with Trump, but a lot of that what you were saying before, he I think like the dude has I was reading about this somewhere actually. Like he actually pretended like not to remember being incarcerated in in a deposition once. And I remember reading somewhere like he actually like Wayne actually has a college degree in psychology.
mm,
So I think that like so that's why I think he's playing some sort of I think he might be playing mind games. What those mind games are, I have no friggin' clue, but I
well?
think it's plausible.
That's a big leap. Um, Let me ask you: the deposition you're talking about, is it the famous one that we've all seen, where he keeps saying like he can't save you?
No,
It's not that one.
no.
Okay.
Like there was a totally different one where like they were asking him factual questions and he said and all of his answers were like, I don't know, or I can't speak on that.
Well, see, that's the interesting thing to me is now I agree with you that he's smarter than maybe I was even giving him credit for. But I think he's also different than you're giving him credit for. I don't think I don't think those statements. I was waiting for the exact thing that he said. I don't think those statements mean I can't remember. I think it's more specific than
No,
that.
but he said, I don't recall. That was one of the statements.
Well, I won't speak on it's different though. I won't speak on it sends a different message, right? It's an articulate way of saying like I'm not going to snitch or I'm not going to speak on it or I'm going to use my fifth. Um,
Well, look, I agree on that, but like the point is that like the question was literally, did you spend time in prison? Like, how do you not remember that you spent time in prison? Like, how do you like that's a fact?
I would like to see this deposition and I'd be curious to see exactly what he said because he the depositions are weird, right? Uh, in a deposition, there's this weird power game that's being played where you're like, you're how do I explain this? It's like you're being like forced to answer things, but you're answering it on their terms, and the questions are pointed. And it's for someone like Wayne, who has built himself up to be where he is. He probably is even more annoyed that someone would have the gall to like play these power games with him. So I think he flips it, and he like checks them by noticing like flaws in their semantics and their grammar, and he flips it on them. Like for instance, in the famous deposition, the guy kept saying something like, "Isn't it something that you would remember, etc., etc., etc." And Wayne kept repeating to him, "Isn't it something?" And he's like, "That sounds like an opinion." Right? And the guy,
Oh, okay, now I think I'm talking about the same one. I think I just saw a different part maybe than you were referring to.
the guy is either the guy is either not understanding Wayne, or or just like not he just like didn't know who he was dealing with. Maybe he just thought Wayne was stupid and didn't answer the question. But like Wayne was like playing this semantical game, like, isn't it something that I would remember? It to me it feels like a teacher would be like, this was worded very poorly or weirdly. Um, Maybe not even incorrectly, but it leaves it open to it.
Interpretation.
Yeah, it leaves it open to interpretation. So instead of saying like, "Isn't it something?" which could sound like, isn't that grand? Isn't that something? Right? You might say something like, wouldn't it be very difficult to forget such a traumatic experience, or something like that? Maybe he'd poke holes in that too, but I could kind of see what he was.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but like my point is that he was smart enough to, is that I feel like his intent in that case was to ostensibly like troll or flip it back, or maybe not troll, but like play mind games or flip it back around on the guy who was interviewing him.
Well,
And I guess like my line of thinking is like that, how can we be so sure that when he says these other outrageous statements that he's not like doing the same thing?
I mean, that's I feel like the other questions were more straightforward, and they were in another
Context?
exactly, they were in another context. It wasn't like some guy like, trying to make you answer some stuff. Like, I mean, this guy was making all types of assumptions about Wayne, saying, "Oh, you have this image," and like, I mean, if you're like, especially if you're like a black man, you're getting very angry for Wayne listening to this, and you probably were too. So I
What?
understood where Wayne was coming from.
What, angry like on his behalf based on how the questions were being asked?
Yeah, just the
Yeah.
questions are being asked and the assumptions, and it's like, this is normal for us to be like treated this way, and not just by people in depositions, but like by cops, and just like everyday interactions by people who exert some kind of authority over you. So that was Wayne's way of saying "fuck you," and then he actually got more aggressive and said he can't save you in the real world, basically like almost threatening this guy, saying like, "I beat the shit out of you, like if we were outside," and this guy who, is trying to, exert some kind of like a third authority or judgeship wouldn't be able to help you. So he's trying to make the guy feel small. Whereas the Black Lives Matter thing, and it almost makes me feel like, I don't know, maybe Wayne has such a positive mindset, and maybe that's part of the reason for his success, is that maybe he feels like he has risen above racism, and it was a poor way of expressing himself.
I
But
mean, that's the impression I get, is that is that he's one of those people who thinks like, and these people honestly piss me the fuck off on, but like one of those people who think that like because they, you know, had risen above whatever their life conditions were, that meant that everybody should be able to, like maybe that's what he meant.
Well, he was specific in talking about himself, though. He didn't sound like he wanted to be a spokesperson for other people. But we would be remiss if we didn't speak up to the fact that Wayne has had several, and I mean like more than 5, maybe 10 interviews with rappers where he flipped his his whole disposition and agreed with him that a lot of fucked up things have been happening racially, and that it's good to it's good that black people are doing everything in their power to stand up. So he's basically like all but, I don't know, maybe he even apologized for his remarks, but he made it very clear with a bunch of people, and not all rappers. Some of them were politicians. He made it very clear, and he spoke on this issue, like made it a point to speak on this issue several times, reversing course on the situation. So the Trump thing is interesting because it opposes that, and I'm not saying that you have to you have to do one to do the other, but it doesn't.
It doesn't make sense.
Well, it's not that it doesn't make sense, because I don't want to do that. I'm not I'm not I'm not there. I don't I'm not gonna like put someone in a box like that, especially someone who's an artist who can feel like how he feels.
You're
But
not in the business of boxes.
but what I'm saying is he has since reversed course on his whole like denying racism. So it's not like the same person who said that is now supporting Trump.
I mean, yeah, like you've got to it it this whole thing is like, honest to God, it's a hard nut to crack, because like I think, but I mean, it's come to the point where I've kind of started to, like, for lack of a better term, I blame Trump a lot more than I blame like Lil Wayne or Ice Cube, because he's clearly using he's clearly taking advantage of them,
Well,
in my opinion, to get black votes.
I take offense to that, big time. Ice Cube and Lil Wayne are not the same animal by any sense of the word. Ice Cube is a radical who has been like pushing the line for years. Ice Cube is like um, damn near brilliant in certain ways, and Lil Wayne, for his talents, he doesn't he doesn't come off anywhere near as educated as Ice Cube is. And I don't want to get too into the Ice Cube thing because we beat it like a dead horse. But Ice Cube's thing is political, and well, really, we should discuss the latest thing that came up with Ice Cube. They try to put him on some bullshit Zoom call with like 12 other rappers and Kamala, and say, "See, like we'll talk to you." And then you have all these like people, including black people, saying, "Oh, Ice Cube doesn't want to hop on this Zoom call, so he doesn't really want to talk to Kamala," like as if Ice Cube doesn't know what's going on. Like they already refused him. They already like shut down his line of negotiation, and now they want to placate him by having him jump on a Zoom call with 12 other voices who are all going to be having their ideas in there. And Cube was promised a phone call from Kamala that she never followed through with. And
which is the reason why he went over to Trump in the first place.
The point of the matter is that
no, this was after. This was
regardless of all of that,
My mistake.
Trump is lying to him.
wait, please.
That's true, but he wouldn't have gone over to that camp if he hadn't been able to if Biden's people hadn't given him the time of day.
Well,
But how can he not tell that Trump is lying?
first of all, please, I don't want to go there because it's just going to turn into a negative conversation. I know what Trump is capable of, and like
Right.
any discussion of Trump being a liar is like, honestly, it's beneath us, and like we're all too smart to like have that conversation. So like, there's no need to go there.
But I feel like that hold on. I have to say one more thing about it. I feel like that, like, by saying we're not going to have that conversation, that we're actually putting forth the notion that Trump could be telling the truth, and I think that's utter BS. I don't think he's not going to follow through with anything he's promising.
Already beat this dead horse, and
Yeah, we've already discussed this. We know, like, we're all in agreement about this.
Yeah.
But that's like, but we at this point we have to go past that into like the underlying roots of what's really going on here.
But then why are we condoning them talking to Trump if we know Trump is lying?
we're not condoning.
We're not condoning that.
So, anyways, first of all, my point was that I didn't get to finish. Was that Cube is way smarter than Wayne, and Cube has like people who like know policy and who are trying to like put forth certain policy, whereas like Wayne is saying what you're saying. Wayne is the one saying that Trump will tell the truth. He's going to do good stuff for black people. Wayne is the ignorant one that's like accepting this very broad, like vapid idea of Trump being good for black people. Cube is the one trying to say here is a policy, like what say you on the policy?
And in the process, he's encouraging people to vote for Trump.
Well, we're not gonna talk about that. We talked about that already. That's a dead horse. My only point was, it's disingenuous to put.
You're not going to convince me though that I don't think that he was wrong for what he did.
I'm not trying to convince you. If you'd let me talk, please. I'm saying it's disingenuous to put Cube and Wayne in the same sentence because they're not the same animal. One of them is very smart and political, and the other one, got his rise on very like ignorant, fun music, and his mindset he's not political, and he is not changed, and he was never political or radical, and that's just like we should not expect a change there.
I get that point. My point is that both of them is that I don't give a rat's where like what their reasoning is for doing it. My point is that I believe they're both wrong. End of discussion there.
Well, yes, end of discussion. So let's not retread it.
But I don't appreciate that, like, I'm not allowed to think that they're both
you're
thoroughly wrong.
You're allowed to think whatever you want to. I just want to make the point that they're not the same person, and that this is the kind of stuff that is being perpetrated in the media right now. Like, we're not allowed to like be thinkers, and we're not allowed to like have our own tactics of doing things. There's only like one liberal way to do things. Otherwise, we're so dumb that we think Trump is like, going to tell the truth and all this other stuff. It's deeper than that. There's a lot more nuance than that. And Cube is a lot smarter than that.
He's not, though.
That was
like,
my point.
He would not have talked to Trump if he was actually smart.
We'll agree to disagree. What do you think, Sam?
What I think is that Ice Cube, again, I don't know any of these people personally, so this is all armchair analysis here. Mm-hmm. Based on what I'm seeing or what I've read and heard about the situation, it sounds like Ice Cube feels like he has a real moment here and has gathered enough clout to try and talk to politicians and like people who might be leading the country to come up with a plan that.
But if Trump wins, the blood is on his hands.
I would like to speak. Can I please finish what I'm saying? That's what I feel like. I feel like he tried to go in with Biden first, and Biden's people said, we're not going to talk to you before the election. So then he decided to talk to Trump. Personally, at this point, I personally am surprised that anyone would think that either one of them would actually would either one would follow through on any promises they made, because I don't really think that either one of them is cares enough about it, but because I think it's all self-interest.
But
however,
the Democrats ignore Trump lies.
However, I still feel that this is where I still feel, in terms of for Ice Cube, that's what I feel like. That's where I feel like he's coming from. And
But if Trump wins, the blood is on the hands of these people who are giving him the time of day.
Trump's a billionaire, and you know, he had like the machine behind him, and he had like you know, what's his name? The guy who's like the guy who I think is in trouble now.
Roger Stone or Steve Bannon?
Yeah, Roger Stone.
Roger Stone.
And like all these other people who are like brilliant strategists. Like no one cares about Ice Cube. Like the blood is not on Ice Cube's hands. Ice Cube did not.
It's really not.
But these are people. But like, the average voter is not listening to Roger Stone. They're listening to actual celebrities.
No, nobody cares about celebrities. Those people don't vote. People who care about celebrities, they don't vote.
I don't think that I wouldn't necessarily.
That's not true.
I don't necessarily think that's true, but I do think that not everybody. I don't think I mean, I could be wrong, but I seriously doubt that anyone is going to base who they vote for president on what a celebrity they like tells them. Like that's like I think that people are going to be. I don't think they're just going to make a decision just based on that.
You don't think an 18-year-old kid wouldn't make a decision based on a celebrity?
Okay, most voters in this country are not 18 years old, though.
Ice Cube's not like...
I voted at 18.
Yes, so did I. But the age of most voters, like if you break it down demographically into like how many, like by age, it's not 18. It's not an 18-year. Like 18-year-olds are not the top bracket.
Most voters are old, and young kids aren't listening to Ice Cube.
That's not true.
Yeah. When's the last time he put out a record?
My kids listen to 90s music.
Oh, they have good taste.
My kids know who Pac is. My kids know who Biggie is. Like,
good, you're doing your job well.
But
no,
that Ice Cube is not telling them to vote for Trump.
No, that's true. He's not. He hasn't.
Oh no, they know. They do know that. They know that.
Okay.
But they're smart. Other people are dumb.
Yeah, and dumb people like that are not. Those people are not going to vote because of Ice Cube.
So you're implying that they would vote for Trump anyway?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Listen, I mean, if Ice Cube had that much power, that'd be a different world that we lived in. Like we should like stop like, you know, giving rappers so much power and like, you know, actually like do something. You know, like instead of like all of this energy spent on worrying about what a rapper is saying, you know, why aren't we getting all of our friends to like phone bank and like, you know, make a difference?
Because no one's going to listen to me. They've all made their decision.
No, Emily.
Cynicism is a lot more powerful than, you know, than the words of Ice Cube being misconstrued. That's a big problem. Every election, disillusionment and cynicism. It's a big.
That's frequently what people are counting on, actually.
Actually,
the idea that like my vote won't matter, no one will listen to me. Yeah. And so that's, I think, unfortunate because...
Well, I've known for years that my vote doesn't matter and I still vote.
Are you saying that because you live in a blue state, or because you feel... Why? Why are you saying that? Or because you live...
Number one, I'm only one person. Number two, I live in a state that's going to... Like, I don't think...
Sorry, you guys are frozen.
Can you hear me or see me?
Now I can.
All right. Oh, give me 1 sec. Sorry, I'll be right back.
But yeah, none of us is one person. I mean, we're a bunch of people. We live in communities. We have access to communities. You have access to communities.
Yeah, and anybody I talk to has already made up their mind, if not already voted.
Not the people that you talk to on phone banks.
Well, who is there left to call? Everyone's already voted.
It's not true. You're just saying a bunch of cynical things that are not true.
But a lot of states have passed their 2016 turnout. That means most people have already voted.
Not most. I'll still be making a shit ton of phone calls tomorrow and Monday and Tuesday.
But if so many people have already voted, who are these? Who is left to call?
You're the one saying so many people have already voted. I didn't agree to that.
But it's been in the news. Like Texas has already, for example, has already passed its 2016 turnout.
Texas is not the nation, first of all. Second of all, do you know how many people are waiting until election day to vote? A lot of people.
They're all going to vote for Trump.
That's not true. That's not true. I've talked to them. I've talked to them on the phone. And then also...
Then why are they waiting? Like, the lines are going to be out the door that day.
Back and relax. I'll tell you why. Because first of all, there's lines waiting out the door every day. Early voting has not shrunken the lines like it normally does. Part of that is because of suppression. Part of that is because of a greater voter turnout. Second of all, even though there's a lot of people doing mail-in ballots, a lot of people are not because they don't trust the mail system and they don't trust Trump. But as a person who actually does this and isn't just like cynical, like, you know, making assumptions, I can tell you a lot of people are waiting until November 3rd to vote. That's still going to be a ton of people voting. And there are people who, if you call them enough times, they will get out and they'll vote. That's just the science of voter turnout. And you have to like walk them through a voting plan. You have to make sure they know where whether it's an early voting center or whether or not those are no more, or whether there are places that they can still drop off their ballots to because it's too late to trust the mail, or whether you can show them where they can vote in person. There's still a lot of work to be done.
Well, I don't know any of these undecided people, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, you don't have to. Like, get to a call center and like hop on the phones and like help out and stop like making excuses.
They won't listen to me.
No, they're not going to. They're definitely not. They're definitely not going to listen to you. You're right.
They won't. Like, they've already made up their mind.
I agree with you. I would not listen to you. I would not. I would listen to other folks, but I would not listen to you. Because you're just like, you're not into it. You're too cynical. Every like positive angle, you're like batting it away. You're like a observer who like is like never going to make it. Because like everything is negative with them. It's like, oh, it's raining. Oh, we got to walk around and talk to people. Oh, like, no one's going to want to give me money. Oh, no one's going to want to talk to me. Like every single thing is negative.
But I wasn't like that as a canvasser. I'm like that now.
Dang, yes, yeah.
I'm like that now because this is a different situation. I've lived longer. I've known more stupid people.
You know how many older people turn cynical? You're not like, you didn't invent older people getting cynical. Like, that's like the oldest name of the game. I mean, people don't like, come out of the womb cynical.
But here's the thing, like 10 years ago, like 12 years ago, like when I was canvassing, like the world wouldn't have come to a screeching halt if John McCain had won over Obama. Like, I wouldn't have been happy, But now the world's going to come to a screeching halt if this moron gets reelected.
You know the song "We Didn't Start the Fire"?
Yeah, well, the fire's going.
But do you know what that song's about?
Yeah, I know. It's supposed to be about like how this has all been like building up for years and years and years and years and years.
Well, not exactly. It's about more than that. It's about the fact that, like, we didn't invent shit. Like, we think we're living in the worst time ever, and the world has never seen this before, and, like, every single era has thought that. We thought that in the Bush era. They thought that in the Reagan era. Every era is like,
Trump is worse than Bush and Reagan, though.
yes, everyone is worse than everyone else, and everyone is, like, more cynical because they're older. Like, you're rewriting, like, the same book over and over and over. There's nothing original about it. At the end of the day, there are tactics and there are inspired people who are going to do everything that they can to win. And, you know, they're going to do it with or without you. But, you know, I mean, I'm sorry that you're that cynical, and I totally get it. But, like, if I encounter you out on turf, like, I'm leaving that door, like, as quickly as possible, and I'm going to get to all my other contacts, and I'm going to have a great day, and I'm going to, like, inspire a lot of people. That's just the name of the game.
Yeah, but people aren't inspired.
Yeah, I get it. Trust me, you're like, you know, you're like one of those characters that's like, everything's like a negative. I get it. No one's inspired. Nothing's cool. We're all going to die. It's all hopeless. It's all worthless. I totally get it.
I mean, I've spent enough time talking to people who, in the Midwest, who are voting for Trump regardless.
I totally get it. It's all for naught. There's no hope. It's all hopeless. And, and it's all Ice Cube's fault on top of it all.
Well, I don't exactly appreciate, like, being told that he wasn't wrong. He was wrong.
That he wasn't wrong. You haven't listened to a word that I've said. You're like repeating the same old thing over and over and over. You're like on a loop.
Because he shouldn't have spoken to Trump.
Okay, well, go talk to him then. Write him a letter.
Like,
like our people want a seat at the table, and we don't want to be told, that there's no reason to, like, try to push our.
But my point is, why do you want a seat at that table?
You are too cynical to have this conversation. There's no point. I'm closing the door. I'm talking to your neighbors. There's just no point.
But why would you? I don't understand it.
You don't understand, and that's okay.
Why would you sit down with Trump?
I'm not talking to this door. I'm moving on. There's no point in talking to you. There's no point.
Well, then there's no point in me being here then, is there?
I mean, there are other things we can talk about. I told you I didn't want to talk about this because it's the same old conversation. And it hasn't gone anywhere new or interesting.
Well, it hasn't gone anywhere new or interesting because I feel like nobody has addressed the elephant in the room, that Trump is a racist, and Ice Cube is not seeing that.
We all know that. You're preaching to the choir, and it's condescending. Like speak on something deeper. Like get deeper with it.
But what is there deeper about it? Like,
well,
he's ignoring the fact that he's a racist.
Yeah, Ice Cube is ignoring Black Ice Cube, who's lived his life and gotten his ass handed to him by the police and created "Fuck the Police," while everyone else was, like, shaking in their boots, afraid to, like, say anything like that. It made, like, one of the most incendiary tracks that, like, got police, like, so pissed that they would, like, crack your skull open with a baton. He doesn't understand racism.
And now he's selling out and talking to that same person who wants.
Ice Cube's not a sellout.
He's selling out by speaking to Trump.
Nope.
He's talking to that same person who wants the police to be cracking batons on people's heads.
He can talk to him. There's more to it than that.
Then why would he bother? I don't get it.
You don't get it. That's it. You don't. And you don't
Well,
have to.
you're not explaining to me why he would bother.
Because there's no point. You're never going to get it. You're never going to get it.
How am I never going to get it? I'm never going to get it if no one tells me.
Well, I'm sorry that you feel that way.
I feel like there has been an effort made to try and explain that.
That's the understatement of a sentence.
Yeah.
What, that it's
At
a
length.
strategy?
No, that there's been
No.
an attempt to try to tell you.
Or at least, or to explain why he would do that.
Yeah, the attempt has been that he's doing a strategy, and I say it's a bad strategy.
What strategy? What do you think that strategy is?
That he's trying to push to say that Trump is coming to the table to get Biden to come to the table,
Oh, okay.
and it's a stupid strategy because in the process he's going to cause people to think that Trump's actually going to do what he says he's going to do.
But that's not the reason why that's not this is happening. That's not what Ice Cube was going for. That's not what Flavia is saying. The whole point was that Ice Cube his goal was to speak to someone who would potentially be the leader, the next leader of this country, to try and come up with a plan to uplift Black America.
Well, and agreeing to speak to Trump is an admission that he thinks Trump's going to win.
Well,
First of all, President Trump. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Flavia.
he wanted to speak to both of them. They both have a chance of winning.
Yep.
We don't like live in La La Land. We're not just gonna hope for the best and be like, oh, there's no plan. You think organizations don't? You think all these nonprofit and political groups don't have a plan in place if Trump wins? That doesn't mean there's an admission that he's gonna win. That means you better have a plan and fight like hell to do what you can.
Well, I don't have a plan in place other than just fall into a deep depression.
Obvious. Yes, that's very clear, Emily. I think you should rethink that for your own health.
Yeah.
Well, that's that. I mean, that's going to be the end of me.
No, it's not doing you any favors. You're literally we've been telling you this for weeks. You're in a downward spiral. Like, you need to.
Well, and it's going to stay that way.
No, yeah, because you're not going to change.
I won't change because I believe what I believe.
Well, that believing what you believe is fine, but you don't have to. But you can. But
Good morning. Kept not coming on because the other
kids are present. Children are present.
I just opened it.
But I believe what I'm going to believe, that the world is in hell. And I don't understand. And I'm sick and tired of everybody trying to tell me positive thinking, positive thinking, positive thinking.
Well,
positive thinking didn't work the first time.
But if you,
Having a contingency plan isn't positive thinking. It's having a backup plan.
Well, there's no backup plan because there's no reasoning with this guy.
What's good, KD?
Like, I don't get why you're telling me to be positive. There's nothing to be positive about.
I'm refusing to speak on the situation.
Yeah.
I'm telling you to do anything. I moved on, minutes ago. I know when to leave a door.
And I know when I'm being condescended to.
Okay, well, sorry, but, I feel the same way when you go on about how, Trump can't be trusted and he's a liar and all.
And we're not even disagreeing with you.
But I feel disagreed with.
No, we're not disagreeing with you. We're just disagreeing. We're not disagreeing with you on those points. We're just disagreeing that we're just disagreeing with the underlying assumption that we're doomed. That we're like, I'm not going to give it I'm not going to give into futility. I'm not going to feel hopeless. I'm not going to stop trying to.
But we've been trying. We've been trying for years, and this is what we have. How have you not given up yet?
Because then there's no point of living. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to stop fighting to be alive and to enjoy life and to be happy, or for other people to be, or for like other people who are being mistreated to be treated better. I'm just not going to stop. This is a setback. It's not the end of the world.
You see everything that I do, and it's all going to go to hell. It's all going to go to hell by this time next week.
Well, it'll take longer than next week for things to go to hell, that's for sure.
Like, what's the point? Why have I put in so much time fighting when my students are just going to get deported or thrown in jail or thrown wherever because nobody cares but me?
Well, Ice Cube cares.
And he's talking to the guy who's going to jail them.
Yeah.
How is that caring?
I mean, it's better than running and hiding.
Well, but why is he not realizing that Trump is that door that you should just leave, like you're saying to me?
Because he's not cynical that way.
Okay, I don't think that this is heading in a positive direction. I think we either just take some time out and breathe and drink some water or splash some cool water on our face, because this is going to get worse and worse. I think we need to take a break. I also feel like this topic has been beaten to death and that we wanted to avoid this. But
well, then that means I need to walk. Clearly, I don't have any support ever.
You know that's not true. I certainly support you. But I certainly support you, but I just don't want to get into that mindset. I don't want to get into the mindset where I feel completely overwhelmed and that nothing I do matters. I mean, you and I mean, I'm not a teacher, but I also work with the same population, Emily, and I am not giving up.
Yeah, and you have clients go to jail.
I do have clients that go to jail, and we fight like hell to get them out.
And then you don't have a 100% success rate. You're not.
No,
perfect.
we don't.
You're not perfect.
I didn't say that I was perfect.
I'm not perfect either.
I didn't say I'm not expecting you to be. No one's holding you to that standard.
And if I'm not going to have 100% success, what's the point?
That life doesn't work that way. People have been struggling. There's been struggling for years. It's part of the human condition. We still have to fight to overcome it.
It matters to that 50% of the population that you are able to help.
And because if that was the kind of thinking that everybody gave into, there would be no civil rights movement. There would be no abolition. There would be no suffragette movement. None of these amazing changes that have happened to make the world a better place would have happened. We've been, we're not in a great place right now. We're in the middle.
But that's all that I wanted you to admit, was that we're not in a great place right now. But I
don't disagree with you.
But I feel like you're all like, oh, well, let's be positive. Let's talk. Let's keep fighting.
Well, we've all voted. What choice do we have?
Well, nothing. But there is no contingency plan that you can make.
All right. Let me ask you this. If Biden wins next week, will you feel better?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because I mean, I will, and I know a lot of people will, but do you think that all of a sudden, like, just out of curiosity, do you think that that's going to solve all the problems in America? And do you think that Biden will actually be the hope that Black America needs?
No.
Right.
But I'll feel like I'm more likely to get something done.
Yeah, but you're not even willing to help him get elected, though. You're gonna sit back and take all the fruits, and you're not even gonna.
Because what am I gonna do to get him elected? People have made up their minds. You just said Sam just said we already voted.
That's not.
That's not the same thing. I would say like the three of us, we already voted, or the four of us, Katie. I don't know if Katie voted. I don't know if even Flavia voted. Flavia, did you vote yet?
I voted a while ago. I mailed.
Okay.
I mailed it in twice.
That's right. Okay. Here's the thing. It's an ongoing process. And Biden to me will represent a return to like the whole Clinton era.
Semi-normalcy.
Right. Except really, it's kind of like it'll be like a sugar coating. Like the Clinton era seemed like a really great time because economically we were doing well, but there was a lot of stuff in there. There was a lot of stuff in there that, like, looking back on it, was pretty regressive. Some of it was pretty racist. And
yes, but here's my point: is that he didn't tell the Proud Boys to stand back and stand
no,
up
and that's
stand by.
No, he didn't, and that's really frightening. And I think Trump's.
And that's why I'm ready to give up.
Okay, but you shouldn't be. I'm sorry, but that's all the more reason why.
But I feel like I've talked to so many people in my lifetime who think that way, and nothing that I say is going to make them stop thinking that way. Like, I walk away frustrated and angry.
What is it that what is it that you want? What do you want seriously? I'm asking you seriously. I acknowledge that we're in a bad place. I acknowledge that Trump is a liar. He's not gonna follow through on whatever it is that Ice Cube wanted him to follow through on. All of this has been acknowledged. He stokes the flames of white supremacy. All of this is true. We've acknowledged all of this is true. We agree with you. What is it now? What is it that you want?
I want people to understand that I'm scared.
I understand that you're scared.
And I don't think I can keep doing this another 4 years. I'm tired. I'm over it. I feel like I'm punching a bag and the bag's punching me right back, and I felt like that ever since Trump got elected. My reaction to hearing that Trump had beaten Hillary was me going into the bathroom and vomiting for hours. And I know that's and I know myself.